Now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for September 3rd. Well, here we are on the third day of the month, and there are now only two active systems. Of course, Ida is now finally dead after its very destructive path that has caused. Larry, now a Category 1 hurricane, and Tropical Depression 17W, not expected to have that much of a fruitful life in the Western Pacific. 61 storms have formed so far this year. It's day 95 of Atlantic hurricane season. Ida is now in pretty much Nova Scotia. There is Invest 91L with not much of a chance of formation, and 92L has a very short window of development before it gets absorbed by the outflow of Larry. Larry, of course, is expected to become a Category 4 hurricane. It's day 111 of hurricane season. There are no storms active. However, we are watching, of course, the possibility for the area of interest that the National Hurricane Center recently marked. That may be added in subsequent updates, but of course, right now we have no model development to go off of. In the Western Pacific, their 17W could become a very, very short-lived tropical storm before it weakens as it heads north and northeastward. There's also 94W, which is a 50% chance of formation as it moves to the west-northwest and eventually curving up to the northwest. In the North Indian Ocean, there's nothing going on here, and there doesn't appear to be anything going on anytime soon. However, there is a slight rumbling that something could happen in the next week or two, but as of right now, there's not enough evidence to mark anything at this time. So with that, there's the Atlantic satellite imagery, and you can very much clearly see Larry there as it gets itself much better organized and increases in size in terms of its structure there, and is expected to become a very large and powerful hurricane, and could threaten Bermuda later on, but as of right now, the 5-day period, forecast period at least, does not bring any impacts there. And in the Eastern Pacific, you can see that the satellite glitches have finally stopped, but at this point, we've got nothing going on here. So it really doesn't matter that the satellite glitches have finally been fixed. I guess it would probably be more relevant if we were still in the Eastern Pacific peak season, but that seems to have passed now. In the Western Pacific, you can kind of see 17W there. It's that little blob there, way to the east of Taiwan there. Not looking exactly that great as it continues to follow its path of eventual death, it seems, because of course this probably will not be getting a name with how short-lived of a tropical storm this is going to be, if it even reaches that level. In the Western Pacific, or North Indian Ocean I should say, here you can see that there's not much going on. There's something that's going on around the Arabian Sea area, but it doesn't look to be anything really significant at this time. And the Bay of Bengal, of course, remaining active with its monsoonal activity. Here you are, you can see Hurricane Larry, and then obviously Invest 92L to the right of it. Larry, of course, is going to be very interesting to watch as we go over the next few days, as if we haven't had enough major hurricanes, Larry is expected to become the third one of the season. Here are the sea surface temperatures in the Eastern Pacific. Most of the waters are around 27 to 29 degrees Celsius, although most of the 30 degrees Celsius have retreated back into the Gulf of California at this point. Moving over to the Gulf of Mexico, the waters of the Bay of Campeche and, of course, the Eastern Gulf of Mexico are still being impacted by, of course, Grace and Ida there. The Western Gulf of Mexico remains around 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. Other than that, much of the Atlantic remains around 28 to 29 degrees Celsius, with only areas in the eastern Cape Verde Islands in the 27-degree isotherm still. In the North Indian Ocean, some of those 30 degrees Celsius are starting to return to the Bay of Bengal, at least the northern side of it. And in the Arabian Sea, it remains around 28 to 29 there, although those temperatures continue to drop off drastically as you head westwards. In the Philippine Sea and the South China Sea, we're looking at some of those temperatures hovering around 29 to 30 degrees Celsius. Other than that, the entire basin remains around 28 to 29, with the only areas being colder are, of course, the high latitudes as you go north of Japan. The southern hemisphere, of course, looking cooler and not exactly there to support any activity at this time. So with that said, here's the sea surface temperature anomalies. The entire Atlantic, Western Atlantic and the main development region is warmer than average at this time. All the higher latitudes and subtropics are above average. So definitely some very good conditions setting up for what we have in store for the month of September here. Definitely not good in terms of the fact that we are seeing that La Nina develop. Well, on this day, 1995, September 3rd, of course, we had Hurricane Luis, which was becoming a Category 4 hurricane, would peak the day after, but would bring significant impacts across portions of the northeastern Caribbean there, specifically the Antilles and Virgin Islands. There was also Henriette, which was a Category 1 hurricane, and Nina, which was a tropical storm in the western Pacific, would eventually affect the Philippines. Of course, Luis was part of the very active 1995 Atlantic hurricane season, which would define the hyperactive terms that we have been seeing quite a few years meet since that year, of course. Many storms got retired that year. Well, here we are in the Atlantic. The next two names here are Mindy followed by Nicholas. In the Eastern Pacific, the next two names here are Olaf and Pamela. And in the Central Pacific, while Aerosmith may be telling you to sing with me, sing for the year, we are still awaiting the year in which we get Hone. Will 21 be that year? I don't even know anymore. In the Western Pacific, the next two names here are Constant followed by Chantu. And in the North Indian Ocean, we're still looking out for Gulab and Shaheen. Moving over to the Southern Hemisphere, specifically the Southwestern Indian Ocean, the next two names here are Anna followed by Batsire. In the Australian region, we're looking out for Patty and Ruby. And in the South Pacific, we're looking out for Cody. We'll be back for another Tropical Weather Bulletin tomorrow night.